hours of intermittent audible gunfire there. A suicide bomber died at the mausoleum. Iranian officials say they managed to foil a third attack. The so-called Islamic State group ISIS has claimed it carried out the attacks, which would be a first in Iran. ISIS later posted a video which showed what it claimed was footage from inside the parliament building. That concludes your morning news update, brought to you compliments Dominica Brewery and Beverages Limited and DigiCell. I am Richie Farrell with the Q95 News team. Would like to thank Matt for linking. Join us again at 12 p.m. for the midday news package with Lakisha Labasir. Good morning.
Are you ready to save big on data, talk, and messaging? Introducing Digicell's Quick Pick Prepaid Bundles. Get data, unlimited Digicel talk, and unlimited WhatsApp messaging. Pay $3.50 for our daily plan, $2.86 a day for our weekly plan, or save the most with our 30-day plan, just $2 a day. Go to My Digicel app or dial *140# to buy a Quick Pick plan and start saving today on data, talk, and messaging. Digicel. Get ready for the best water sports festival on the planet. Tyfest 2017, July 7th to 16th, Dominica. Kicking off with the annual happy hour, scuba diving, boat races, pool party night, kids treasure hunt, lionfish day, beach party, island-wide cleanup drive, whale watching, roast bakes and rum shop, and the return of the Xing Ping Ting. Tyfest 2017, July 7th to 16th, presented by the Dominica Water Sports Association and Kupuli.
The whispers in the morning of lovers sleeping tight are rolling by like thunder now as I look in your eyes. I hold on to your Lost is how
This episode of Health Vibes is brought to you by the brand you trust the most, Jolly's Pharmacy Limited, leading the way in healthcare.
I woke up this morning feeling real stink. I had the intentions to call it sling, but I end up in Jolly's Pharmacy. Great and down you just street, Jolly's fix up my immune system. Got me feeling fit and strong, now I'm ready to work on the on any mission. If you see me walking, Jolly's Pharmacy is number one, Jolly's walking. We cater for everyone, Jolly's walking. Boost up your immune system, Jolly's walking. Dominica's your boy Father Fox. Whenever I'm in town and I'm feeling down, I head to Jolly's Pharmacy. They boost me up real quick. Jolly's Pharmacy, leading the way in healthcare.
Jolly's Pharmacy presents a new and innovative radio program, Health Vibes. Health Vibes. Every Wednesday morning on Q95 FM. Health Vibes. Hosted by Carlton Lando and Pearl Fontaine Butler. Health Vibes from 10:15 to 11 a.m. It's not just your average talk show. It's appealing and educational with a bit of humor. Real vibes on your health. Now, that's the vibe. Health Vibes on Q95. Every Wednesday from 10:15 to 11 a.m. with Pearl and Carlton. Tune in.
Welcome to Health Vibes, Dominica's most foremost program on health, medicine, nutrition, and wellness, featuring the latest news on conventional and alternative medicine and healthcare. Now, here's your host, Carlton Lando, and co-host, Pearl Fontaine Butler.
Good morning to you, Dominica, and to all our listeners regionally and internationally. We are so happy that you've joined us again on another episode of Health Vibes. Let me thank the many people who wished me happy birthday. Last week, Thursday, I must say it was one of the best birthdays that I've had. Let me big up this morning my auntie in Mero, Auntie Junie, who celebrated birthday with me as well. We both June 1. And to my aunt, Primrose Alexander and Vernell in Canada, who always listen to Health Vibes, let me say good morning to you guys. Hoping to see you guys very soon. Pearl, good morning.
Good morning, Carlton. Listen, Carlton is on a roll this morning. Good morning to Dominicans here and abroad, and to our listeners who tune in every Wednesday, who make it a point to tune in to us. Good morning to you, and I hope that you all have an amazing and blessed day today.
But Pearl, I wanted to say something to you this morning, and sometimes, we don't do that enough. I just wanted to say something positive to you this morning. You know that we good friends.
That's right.
I mean, beside doing the show, we are good friends. But you come with such a great spirit. Beside you being very spiritual and God-centered, you are always looking particularly to bring women to a better knowledge of themselves, particularly in the sense of morality, in the sense of your worth as a woman, understanding your own purpose. And I really wanted to say to you that I applaud you for that. I think we need more women like you and Dominica. You might seem young, but you are a powerful person, and you definitely do have you definitely play a major part in impactation to the many lives that you've touched. And I mean, I've seen your work. I've heard of your recognition throughout. You just received that recognition not very long ago. 767 Girls Rock, and it's because again of the impactation that you've had, and you keep on depositing in so many young lives, particularly our females on island. So I wanted to say that to you this way. Did I surprise you?
Yes, you did. You really did. Thank you so much for that. But I have to say, I have to give all glory and honor to God. And this morning I was driving in to work, and I was listening to another radio station, and there was this message talking about how there was this baseball player many years ago who
who said, you know what, he lived many years playing baseball but had never achieved anything, and he felt that because he didn't share his faith, he didn't share his spirituality with people. And the moment he said, Lord, you know, if I do something great on the field today, I will honor you, I will give glory to you. And that day he went out and he scored the biggest score he could ever, the biggest goal he could ever score. And he went back and he said, you know, this is all God. You know, I prayed today and this was the answer that I was given. And so he said, had he known, he wouldn't have wasted all his years before not talking about his journey and his life with Christ, and you know what makes him him. And so I want to thank you for those kind words that you just spoke to me on air, you know, that too. And I think it's God, all the way. It's God, you know. In my throughout my journey, meeting women, people, just speaking to them, I'm a lover of people and I love helping people. And so if I can impart some knowledge or something that I've learned along the way, I would do so. So yes, so I thank you so much for that.
You're welcome, my friend. So we have some news. I know
Yes.
not very good news, but it's news that we need to basically share.
That's right. We are Health Vibes, and we are in the business of educating the public so that you all can make wise and healthy decisions going forward. So about a week ago, the Ministry of Health and Environment notified the public of an outbreak of conjunctivitis called red eye in the health districts of Marigot, Portsmouth, and Roseau. The ministry also reported an increase in chickenpox, but said it is not an outbreak at this point. To date, the red eye cases are only being reported from the Marigot, Portsmouth, and Roseau health districts. Presently, there are no reported cases of red eye in the health districts of St. Joseph, La Plaine, Castlebruce, and Grand Bay. In response, the Ministry of Health and Environment advised the public to be vigilant and to prevent further spread of the disease. All health facilities have been alerted and active surveillance has been initiated. Field investigations as well as community level education have been ongoing. Educational materials to inform the public on prevention and management of red eye have been distributed in the affected areas. And that was the end of the press release. Carlton, what are your thoughts?
And I really, we've seen a few cases. Well, we've seen quite a number of cases actually in the pharmacy. People coming in with prescriptions for medication for red eyes. Some people coming in with symptoms, and we may have to most times send them to the healthcare provider for evaluation and confirmation that they have indeed contracted viral conjunctivitis, as it is called.
Right, but Carlton, what is conjunctivitis? I know it's red eye, but
Right.
what is that
Okay.
though?
So conjunctivitis by itself is really an inflammation of the conjunctiva. And that is that mucosal sort of membrane that lies on the white part of the eye. And viral conjunctivitis means that form of inflammation is really caused by a virus. You can also have bacterial conjunctivitis. But what makes viral conjunctivitis more acute is that because it is really contagious. So you can get it from touching, from touching someone, being in close contact with someone who has the virus, sharing towels, you can get it from that, sharing the same pillows. So if you basically, somebody has it and you go and lie on the bed and you hug up the pillow, you rest on the pillow, you can actually contract it that way. Sharing the same towels, you can get it this way. Casual contact, facial expressions. So if you touch somebody's face and you did not wash your hand, sterilize your hand, you can actually contract the virus that way. The virus gets into the mucosal lining. It normally incubates within 48 to 72 hour period, and then it begins to cause redness of the eye. So you normally experience pain of the eye. the eyeball. You may begin to see redness of the mucosal lining. You may see discharge, so you might see like pus-like discharge coming from the eye. Burning, some people may experience a bit of itching, and you may have sensitivity to light. So even opening the eye may have difficulty to open, particularly in the morning. The mucus might cause the eyelids to stick together and can't really open. And when the eye does open and you get outside, you may have sensitivity to light. And so these are common symptoms that we have seen in viral conjunctivitis. Now, many people are prescribed antibacterial agents for this. Now, you will recognize that, yes, it's true that it's a virus that is really causing the complication that you may have, or the redness, the irritation. But really and truly what happens, you end up having a secondary bacterial infection due to the virus. And that is why most times the doctor would recognize or prescribe an antibacterial eye drop for you rather than an antiviral eye drop. Okay? So you might say, but why is it that it's a virus that's causing it and the doctor is giving me antibiotic? But because the virus really causes damages to the mucosal lining, and then it becomes bacterial. So
Very interesting.
So one of the things that you want to make sure is that hands are washed thoroughly. Use hand sanitizers. You avoid contact large crowds. It might be best to actually not shake hands right now, and maybe just knocks people, or just put up your thumb finger up and elapse rather than actually shaking hands at this point in time. Maybe you want to avoid hugging as well, because remember that the virus can be in somebody's system and not necessarily be manifesting as yet. And so you can still end up contracting the virus because it is contagious. It's not life-threatening, so that's what many people think, well, maybe they can lose their eyesight or so. But if you do have other eye condition, it can compromise your general health of your eye. So that's why it's important to have the evaluation done by a healthcare provider and get a proper diagnosis before coming to the pharmacy and maybe going on the shelf and picking up Visine or Clear Eyes, these types of drops. You may not necessarily, those may not be the drugs. They're not the drugs, the drops that are warranted for or recommended for such condition. And so the evaluation is important. And once you've been evaluated, then your doctor would prescribe a drop for you. I know that people have, some people use the water from the coconut. They use coconut water. People use salt water, purified salt water. Those are okay. Those are first line treatments that are used to basically just cleanse the eye. But because of the inflammation aspect of the virus, it causes a lot of burning of the mucosal lining. So even washing the eye with the coconut water or the salt water can cause further irritation to the eye.
Wow.
And some people recommend sea baths. That's okay. However, you want to ensure that the sea is not dirty at the time that you're going to bathe, and have your eyes open under the water, as you can get further, the eyes can get further contaminated with microorganisms. So those are some of the pinpoints we want to say to you. If you have small children, you really want to take more caution with them that they do not contract the virus at this point in time.
I think something to look at would be also to not share towels or anything like that when wiping the face or the body, especially when you have children, because sometimes you might have two children, one may have the virus and the other might not, but then they share the towel, or they just quickly take it and wipe their eyes. So I think you should be mindful of that.
Another thing I wanted to say, Pearl, without cutting you, is as well, if you do have viral conjunctivitis, you may need to get some leave from your doctor because it's highly contagious. You don't want to come to the workplace and then end up giving it or spreading it at work. And you may need to wear sunglasses as well.
Okay, we have a caller. Good morning, caller.
Hello,
Good-
good morning.
Good morning to you, my
morning.
dear.
I just want to ask you, if you are on eye drops with your eye specialist,
Yes, ma'am.
okay, do you still need a different eye drop? Because I using my eye drop, I on medication for my eye problem. I'm cataract.
Yes, ma'am. Mhm.
Do I need to go to the doctor for another eye drop?
If you have red eyes,
If you have red eyes.
yes, ma'am, you definitely need to. Why? Because again, you already have an eye condition that is a bit considered serious. So your doctor would definitely need to assess you to prevent the virus from invading more into the eye and causing secondary infection. So the evaluation is important to be able to recommend a medication to you right away, because the medication that you might be using for your cataract, if it's Trusop, or if it's you cannot, it's not indicated for the same conjunctivitis. So
Okay,
you need another one.
So you need to go to the eye specialist, or you can go to
You can go to your general practitioner. They're familiar with this medical condition, and they can manage it quite well.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome,
You're
madam.
welcome.
And let me ask you.
Yes, ma'am.
There is a medication, sometime you were on the air, or you're on Q95, and I was listening, and there is a medication, you said that good for, when you have the skin disease, what is its name again?
Eczema?
Eczema.
Okay.
What is the name of the medication, and spell it for me, please.
I'm trying to remember what
It's
it
a
is.
cream. It's a cream.
I am
Because by
trying.
the time I go and look
Because
for
if it's something that I may have advertised on a Friday,
yes, yeah, no, it's on a Wednesday. I
It's on a
think.
Wednesday. I spoke about it.
Yeah, because on Fridays I hardly home.
Was it the shower? Was it the body wash to
Yeah,
bathe?
yeah.
Okay, I know what it is. I just give me a
The Shea Moisture.
the one in the from the black. It's in a black and orange. It's a $80-something
Yes,
for it.
that's by Shea Moisture. It's
Yes.
the I don't remember the name, but it's by Shea Moisture. It's a psoriasis.
Yes.
yeah.
If you can give me a number, I can call you after the show
After the
and
show.
give it to you.
Okay, you want my number
Yes,
now?
yes, ma'am.
445
Mhm.
5461.
5461. Okay, I will call you and give you the name of it.
Okay, thank
All
you
right.
very much.
You're welcome.
Yes,
Bye
bye.
bye. Yes.
So Carlton, I also wanted to share with our listeners that while they may be experiencing some symptoms at home, they could use either a cold compress or a warm compress. However, they should not use the same compress on both eyes. They
Yes.
should have two different ones, because then if you have pink eye in one eye, you don't want to spread it to the other one.
Right.
So you can use different compresses, two different compresses for each eye.
Mhm. And you really want to avoid using the fingers in the eye. You really don't want
That's
to
right.
be, troubling the eye. I know it will be a bit tempting to want to touch the eye, but you really want to avoid.
And it's like having a pimple, right? An
Yes.
annoying pimple that you just want to squeeze, but you
Yes.
just don't want to go through that.
so you really want to avoid
Right, just
that.
avoid it. But also, if you're cleaning it, you wipe from the inside next to the nose toward the outside. So
Yes.
make sure that you do that as well. So Carlton, the hurricane season. I think this is something that we need to talk about, because it's here.
It's here. Someone was joking, was with me and said, but you opened the hurricane season June 1. But I said, well, I've never heard of a hurricane, Carlton, yet. So it means that even in the mix of the hurricane season, I remain the calm, peaceful one.
Right. So let's talk about preparation for the carnival for the for the hurricane season. What should we do?
I'm glad that you've answered that. I know that the Dominica Disaster Preparedness Agency, they've really done a lot of work in sensitizing us on preparation for the hurricane season. And we know that we live in a season that's very erratic. it's
right.
almost like
Unpredictable.
it's almost like, yes, it's really the hurricane season, but you just don't know what can happen. It can go on all till January, it can go on to
Right.
with in light of global warming and climate change, we know that everything is kind of upside down these days. So the important thing is preparation. When we talk about preparation, we must begin with a plan. So we encourage every family to basically begin to plan. So you're looking at overhead trees in your yard. Do you have big trees in the yard that are over the roofs, over the rooftop? Do you have trees that if they fall, they can mash up your house, they can even damage you, they can even kill you? Now is the time to really trim those trees, and even you may have to cut them at times. You may want to look at the other things surrounding that are part of your environment around your house. Do you have drains close by that could predispose you to massive floodings and can even damage your home? Do you have lumps of soil or debris that could actually cause blockage of water? So these are things that you want to begin to do even before we talk about first aid and all of that. You want to look at the statics of your home. How prepared are you? Many people in Dominica live in close to gullies and gutter and ravines and so forth. I mean, when you look at those ravines, are there old branches in there? Are there tires? Are there old refrigerators? People dump some of those things in ravines, and these things can cause problems because it means that when the water comes, it can have difficulty flowing and you can have massive flooding. So you want you to begin to think along those lines. Clean up your environment, making sure that in light of something suddenly occurs, that your yard is clean and you do not have anything that might be hazardous to you. Then we're looking at the family. We recommend that every household should have at least a cash float of at least $500. It might sound plenty money, but you never know. Banks will be closed. ATMs can get messed up. Many of those things rely on technology. Technology can get down, and checkbooks, supermarkets may not accept checks at that time. So you really want to know you have at least $300 to $500 cash somewhere in the house, that if something happens, you need to replenish, buy groceries, you have cash itself.
That's right.
And many times we forget that. We still rely on our cards, we still rely on our checkbooks, and those things may not be acceptable at that point in time. Right? So you want to...
And what about our main source of life, water?
Right. So what the CDC has recommended is that we have enough water to last us up to 7 days. And that includes water for bathing. So many of us, now is a good time to invest in 2 big drums. The big plastic drums that we get things from overseas. Now is a good time to clean them up, fill them up with water, clean water, and you can actually buy the chlorine purified tablets and put 1 or 2 in the barrel of water.
And
so your water remains
do we
really sterilized.
have those tablets at
Yeah,
Jolly's?
they are available at Jolly's, and they're just about $6 and something. They're quite cheap.
Okay, so that's per gallon.
Gallon.
Okay.
Yes, so those are available. I mean, right now I have my nice drum on my porch, well covered, with lots of water in there, because you just don't know.
You don't know.
And so you want to make sure that you have enough water to flush a toilet, to have a bath, to brush your teeth, because you really cannot use water that is unsanitized, dirty water to do these things, as you may end up having gastrointestinal problems diarrhea and vomiting. So you want to make sure that you have lots of water. Now is the time.
And I like that you made that point, because I don't think a lot of people take it very seriously.
Right.
They wait until when they hear a storm is coming to then go out and do stuff, right? But by that time, sometimes it's too late.
Right.
And so we need to look at the diseases that can come about from not being prepared.
That's
true.
true.
Yeah.
And now is a good time to actually, that's one of the things I personally do. I have not done it yet, but I plan to do it this weekend, is to buy at least 2 cases of purified water and keep in the house.
Just store it, yeah.
Just store it there. 2 cases of purified water. So it's a good time to actually do that. You want to make sure that you have at least 1 extra month of your prescription medication, particularly as it relates to the chronic non-communicable diseases management. The pharmacies might be closed, they might get damaged. You never know what disaster may strike. It could even be an earthquake, Lord forbid. It could be a tsunami,
Right.
Lord forbid. So you want to make sure that you have at least 1 month supply of medication on whole. So
Okay.
along with what you have, you want to have a backup of at least 1 month supply, particularly medications for your children, medications for the elderly, medications particularly for the eyes, those that you really cannot do without. You want to make sure that you have at least 1 extra month supply of those medications.
Very good point. Very good point.
So what we've seen in Dominica is almost a cultural habit where people pop into supermarkets hours before
A storm.
and you cannot even get a parking space. The lines are long. That does, and I think it's a Caribbean thing, because I find in the Caribbean we do that. You look at other islands and you see the same thing happens. So it means that, okay, where did that money come from all of a sudden to be able to go and do all of that shopping?
Right.
So,
We have
should,
to prepare.
right. So we shouldn't wait for the last minute to really run to the supermarket to get those supply. So what we can even begin doing, if we get paid every month, we get paid every fortnight, we can begin to do some shopping and say, well, this is towards my hurricane preparedness, and put your stuff away. So now is the time that you need to have canned foods. I mean, many of us are not, really into the canned foods and not promoting it, but at that time, you definitely may need to have some canned foods, because really and truly, the refrigerator will not be there. You will not be able to have meats and so forth. So you really need to have some canned foods that you can make fast. Some macaroni, some rice, things that are, that can be made a bit easier.
You, as you just said this, it made me think about what people did many years ago when maybe canned foods weren't a huge thing. How did they survive the hurricane
Well, I mean,
season?
many of them, they still did a lot of what do you call it? Smoking. So they
yes.
smoked a lot of
Okay.
their meats. But even so, now we're talking about with this high, because when a hurricane comes, the atmosphere changes, the pressure is very high, and so you find meats and so forth are more prone to decay. The whole house is closed up, so you have the more heat inside, and that in itself creates the environment to have contamination. So it's not the Ministry of Health and the environmental officers. I'm sure they would not really endorse too much meat at that point in time, and would maybe recommend the canned foods at that time. You really want to make sure that you have a first aid kit. And now we are really saying that your first aid kit should include a blood pressure monitor and a glucometer.
Wow.
So we have topped it up a bit, because the stress levels are high at that time. People are anxious. The likelihood of people having high blood pressure or even having an elevation of glucose levels are higher. And so if you know, well, when I do my blood pressure, wow, my blood pressure is really high, it immediately tells you need to calm down. You need to relax. You may need to restrict your sodium intake. You may need to have a little rest. You may need to take your medication. So we recommend particularly those people who are hypertensive and diabetic to really invest in a glucometer and a blood pressure monitor. We also recommend thermometers to be also part of the first aid kit.
Of course.
Good morning, caller.
Good morning.
Hey, good morning, Paul. Good morning, Carlton.
Good morning, my friend. How are you?
morning.
Well, I'm good. Very informative program today.
Thank you.
Yeah, as Paul mentioned about, she wonder how people used to prepare in terms of all these different things. Imagine back then you didn't have so many imports.
Yes.
Right.
You didn't have so many of these meats coming in. You didn't have so many of these canned foods. So it was actually, because I grew up and I could remember we mostly ate fish.
Yes.
Things like chicken would only be around maybe Christmas or some holiday time, but really and truly was just fish all the time. And when you had an abundance of fish, I remember my granny would salt it
Yes.
to preserve it.
Yes.
Yeah, and sometimes even in the kitchen that was out, that was separated from the house, there was no ceiling, so they would put it in the rafters there to dry.
Wow.
Yeah, and it would be well preserved that way. So if you were in town and you were not smoking your meats, we would put salt the meats and put it in the rafters. So the heat of the galvanized would dry up the fish nicely, and it was well salted, and it would be preserved like that.
Mm-hmm.
That
Anyway,
is so amazing.
yeah, man, niceness. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Yes, this is our historian.
No, and can I tell you something? I absolutely am so amazed by that. You
Yes.
know, I want to learn how to do that. that was before my time,
Yes,
but
yes,
I'm
yes.
so I just love that, the creativeness
Sure.
of being able to do things and still survive,
And still survive. Yes.
and even live to 100 years
80
old.
yes.
You know, how many of us can really boast of that now, with so many things, consuming so many things that are just not good for us.
True. So you want to make sure that your first aid kit has painkillers, at least those that are acceptable, preferably not aspirin. So you want to make sure that you have at least some Tylenol or paracetamol. You want to have some ibuprofen, something.
Why not aspirin?
Because aspirin, particularly with viral infections, they can cause internal bleeding.
Okay.
And so that is why, and they can cause a certain syndrome. I try to remember the name of it right now, but which can cause seizures. And so aspirin is not usually recommended as a first line painkiller during that time. You want to make sure that you have your bandages, and then they come in different sizes. So you want to have your gauze, you want to have your bandages, you want to have the ones that can wrap, particularly if you've had, according to where you have the injury. Your hand sanitizers, that's very important as well.
Your
to have.
plasters, your
Right.
Band-Aids.
At least some type of antibiotic ointment. So whether it's Neosporin, whether it's triple antibiotic, whether it's bacitracin, zinc,
Right.
you want to have at least some topical antibacterial agent. Some smelling salt is very important. Your granny, they believed in smelling salt. And smelling salt is basically ammonia, right? What we call alkali. That's what is in smelling salt. And if somebody's unconscious, they might have been running and they fell. You have some smelling salt, you put under their nose, it will help them to revive. If that is not the case, then it's something more serious. The person might have gone in a coma.
And I would even say to go as far as including bay rum,
Right,
alkalada,
right.
those things.
Excellent.
As well. And did you know that some first aid kits come with candle wax? Did you know that?
Yes. Why? Because we use a lot of soft candle, and soft
Right.
candle has always been proven well to remove like prickles, and if you have a piece of stick in under your skin, that you put the wax on it, and it actually helps to get it out. So that is why the soft candle, a lot of people buy that, and it's still used. It still has its function, even now. An antiseptic agent, hydrogen peroxide, Savlon, Dettol.
Right.
You want to have one of those agents that at least you can use to clean the wound when that occurs. Tweezer. You may want to have a tweezer to help with, you don't want to use your finger, so you want to hold, you see what the nurses do.
Right,
you have a
right.
tweezer or small scissors that you can actually swab the area. A cold compress, I think you mentioned that earlier on, having the cold compress. Or you can use antiseptic wipes, so you could get the alcohol swabs, those can be used. Non-latex gloves, you definitely want to have your gloves, and you want to remember your hand size. So you don't want to, have very large hands and then go and buy small gloves. You can get small, medium, and large gloves. And those are the non-latex gloves. And adhesive plasters are very important as well, that you can use. So we've given you a good list of items that can be part of your first aid kit.
Now, I know that Jolly's Pharmacy has
All
first
of
aid
those
kits,
things.
right? So you should definitely consider, if you don't have one, to consider going down there and picking
Right,
up one.
and we can help you to modify or to kind of make your first aid kit more because like my first aid kit at home, I do have one. I have my glucometer, my blood pressure monitor. I have an antacid in there. So if you have a stomach upset, I have things to stop vomiting. So if you got some vomiting, I have stuff for stomach gripes. So some people may want, I have some Imodium for diarrhea. So it depends on what you want in there. So if some things you can, because all these things you can get them over the counter, so at least you
but
have.
In the time of a disaster, though, you may not be able to get to, be able to get to a pharmacy.
And
you
begin
stock
to
up.
put your kits. And listen, you do not need a fancy, crate or kit as you would see on the TV. Using a large Ziploc bag. It's a great kit.
To just ensure it's there in place.
Right. So you can use a great big Ziploc bag and you want to basically label it. So you can put something, even using a bandage, an adhesive plaster, you can stick it on it, or one of those adhesive tips, and you can mark first aid kit. So this is your first aid kit right there. And you make sure that every member of the family knows, those who are responsible, those who are big enough, know exactly where it is. So it should not be something that should be hidden and only you as the adult
have access to it.
right? Because something can happen to you, and at that time your children would want to know where that kit is.
Carlton, that's fantastic information. Listen, if you have any questions for us, you can call us up, 449-3095, 449-3096, 449-3097, 616-4257, or on the overseas line, 305-432-9624. If you have any contributions, we welcome them this morning.
Now, I wanted to talk a little about some of the preparations that we must take, particularly with foods. At that time, you find there might be no electricity, so there's no refrigerator. And I should note too that it's a good time to invest in, at least if you do have one cylinder, ensure that your cylinder is filled. If you have empty cylinders, ensure that they're filled. I actually just filled up 2 empty ones that I had. Because at that time, you really don't want to you don't have
any
gas.
Right.
So you want to make sure that you have your gas. But coming back to the foods.
And another thing, that you should have is matches.
Oh, yes.
Matches, and also flashlights and batteries and candles.
You want to have those. And now they have these good lantern lamps. I have one home that's chargeable. So when I plug it in the electricity, it could last up to 4 hours.
Right.
There are those that work on batteries. So those are even safer than the candles or the lamp these days. You might have fallen asleep and you can end up burning your house.
Here's another thing, as we're talking about gas, as you mentioned the cylinder, right? I just don't understand, why is it that when we hear of a storm or a hurricane or a trough, something on the way, that's when you see long lines at the gas stations, right? Why is everybody driving almost on E and waiting for those moments? No, I think we need to take precaution and always make sure that our gas tanks are above the halfway level. As soon as it gets to half, fill it back up so that in time of an emergency, you don't have to run and get gas. And here's the other thing. Your car may be your only option to listening to the radio or if you don't have a radio at home. It may be your only option to charge your phone, to do something. And
that's a very good point that you've raised, because I remember when Erica came, it was in my vehicle I had to go, because there was nothing. In my vehicle I had to go to listen to what was happening. So I would go in my vehicle, so I would sit for 30 minutes and just listen to what's happening. So.
And listen, and whenever I drive past the gas stations and I see the long lines, I say, oh, a storm is coming. That's how you just know. That's when everybody really goes to stock up on gas. I just don't understand it. We have a caller. Good morning.
Good morning, caller.
Anyway, I just got a call from the Disaster Preparedness Committee.
Yes, what did they tell you?
Looking for Carlton and Pearl, Fountain Butler. I am not flattering all you, but I've never heard it so detailed
Thank you.
And I've heard many years, listening to the people disaster preparedness committee giving information and never so detailed. And I'm not just saying that to flatter all you,
Thank you.
not because all you are my people, you know.
Thank you.
But I just want to congratulate you all because I'm there and they're saying, yo, interesting, you know.
Mhm.
So I'm learning a lot and I give
Yes.
thanks and blessings. I'm there listening. God bless.
Thank you, my friend.
blessings. Thank you.
Yeah, because it's important. I think many times we really don't pay, and then we say, but you know, can you imagine how bad it would feel to know you have 4 cylinders, and one was on and the gas gone, and the 3 others are empty already, and then it's bad weather. You may not own a vehicle, buses are not running, supermarkets are closed, and you're stuck. And then you have to be embarrassed either going outside and trying to light a fire. All the wood already is cold and wet. Or you have to go by the neighbor and knock on the door and say, well, can you cook some macaroni for me? I mean,
Right.
how?
And this also goes for people with pay as you go with their electricity.
Yes.
A lot of people will say, "Oh, let me put a $5 on
Right.
the
Good
lights." No, my grandfather, God bless him, he was so wise in that, you know, he would ensure that you had enough money to last you a month or 2.
Yes.
So always make sure that you have more than enough, because in a time like this, let's say for instance you don't have the fast cash at home that Carlton spoke about, you know the electricity is taken care of.
Right.
You know that in case of an emergency, let's say lights are the only thing that you have, you don't have any water and you have lights, ensure that you're not one of those people who's just in the dark because
Right.
you didn't have enough money on your pay-as-you-go unit, because that's very important
Very,
as well.
very, very good point.
Very important.
But Pearl, so we're talking about the foods.
Mm-hmm.
It's that time of when, you know, we cook a lot, everybody's playing cards, and we find ourselves doing fun things. But remember, we don't have much preservation methods. And at that time, it's better to consume all of the food rather than leaving food behind and consume it later. And the worst thing you want is to have a diarrhea outbreak or vomiting outbreak within the family during a disaster. There is no running water, there is no toilet to really flush. You may not have plenty of water, and you really don't want to be sick, to get dehydrated at that time. So you want to make sure that the foods are consumed within a reasonable time. You want to make sure that they are warm, you know, all the time. You know, it's a good temperature. Another thing that we see people doing, especially even for me, many years ago as a child, I used to do it. You know, during the storm, all the little ravens come down and we find children walking in the water without shoe. Very dangerous, particularly in line of leptospirosis and other waterborne diseases. You really can get yourself getting massive, you know, illnesses, serious illnesses from that practice. So it's not a good practice to go walking in dirty water during a storm because you think it's adventurous and all rapids and everything. You don't know what was up in those streams, you know, for how long. And you walking in this water, there are animals that may have been dead. There might be feces in the water, stool in the water, you know, order. Right. You could have a sewer that could have even gotten undermined because of the amount of water, and then you walking in all of this, not knowing, you're not seeing the feces, but it's really there in the water. So these are things that you really want to avoid during the time of a storm. And I think that they've always said the best place to be is at home. You don't want to play MacGyver and want to be adventurous, and later down you find yourself having some major complication.
That just made me laugh, because I know some people who, when the storm is coming, that's when they want to go outside and see what's happening. Hello, stay home.
Stay home.
Yes.
Play cards, play Ludo, you know, get your
Or
sticks and
Uno,
that.
dominoes, play something. That's the time for you to really be with your
Play
family.
cards, right? Spend more time in the bed, sleep, you know, do things. And it's a good time to integrate and to bond and to catch up.
That's right.
You know,
That's right. Or
know.
even read things that we don't do too often. And just take some time to read.
So we really want to sensitize you again on the hurricane season, a time when you definitely want to begin to collect your water. while the water is clean, you want to make sure that you invest. I mean, many people do sell those drums. You can buy pails as well if you cannot afford drums. Have at least 6 pails, of water. Make sure that they're well covered, that mosquitoes doesn't find their way in there. You want to make sure that the yard, as I've said, is really clean. There are not things under the cellar, harboring, mosquitoes, and you don't want to have debris there. You want to make sure that your trees are trimmed and cut. The branches, you don't want them falling over your house and mashing up your house, So there are things that we all can do. And I think the important thing is for us to plan strategically, plan smart, and always be in a state of readiness.
That's right.
Even packing, just like, our mothers or our parents would do. Many of us do that now. Have a bag always packed for hospital. There was always
My granny does that.
Right, always a bag for hospital with the right underwear.
Because you never know. You never know.
Right. Many of us, I don't do it. I was sad to say.
But listen, a couple of years ago when we had some tremors, I went online, I did some research, I ordered my masks, my glasses. You just never know.
Right.
And I've packed some aside just in case.
Yes.
I have my mask, so my face is always, my nose and my mouth is always covered. You just never know. Like around that time, it almost prompts you to think ahead. Like these are the times we can't just take life for granted.
True.
I want to have an escape route. My family and I already have an idea of if something were to happen, what would be the meeting point? Where would everybody meet?
Yes.
Your families, you need to know this. You need to talk about these things.
One of the things that when we had the fireman on, he was saying that one of the things that we need to practice is to walk with our eyes closed and know our house very well.
That's
so
right.
So in case
That's
of an
right.
emergency, when you may have walls collapse, you may have something, and you need to know where the door is,
how to maneuver.
Right.
Yeah.
We have a caller. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, caller.
Yes, hello, good morning.
Good morning to you, sir.
Okay, I just want to say to you, Carlton and Pearl, good job, good program.
Thank you very much.
Huh?
Thank you very much, sir.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you.
And tell Pearl that's her friend from Lube.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you.
Right. So you really want to make sure and have a lot of dry foods, have a lot of dry snacks. That's a good time to have, dry snack
Right.
crackers.
That's right.
Your powdered milk. Rather than having the liquid milk, now is the time to really now have the powdered milk. And I actually love to have Bix and cocoa tea during those bad weathers. It's just nothing nicer than nice hot Bix with cocoa tea. During that time.
You can also ensure that you have nuts, raisins, simple things to snack on, especially if you have children. I'm not talking about nuts, but simple things, potato chips, plantain chips.
Right. And not forgetting your infants' formulas and diapers. You want to make sure that you have enough of diapers and formulas at that time of year two.
Right. Toilet tissue, paper towels, whatever else that you need. You ensure that this is the time that you stock up on. Even if you don't use it right away, you just make sure that you have a section in your cupboard and you know that this is specifically for the hurricane season.
Okay. So I think, Pearl, we just about...
we just about finished. We got 2 seconds left.
Right.
But Carlton, great information that you shared today, reconjunctivitis.
Yes.
And what we can do to prevent it. And also if we do happen to experience the symptoms, what we can do to, nurse ourselves back to health and the proper way to cleanse our eyes. And even the first line of defense is to see your general practitioner.
Definitely.
To get your prescription of antibiotics and antiviral medication specifically for that.
Yes.
And also too for the hurricane season, being prepared, your first aid kit, what to have, and what to do in times of the hurricane season.
Having your emergency numbers,
That's right. That's right.
Your health center number, your district nurse number, your medical doctor number, making sure that you have those numbers available. You can stick them right on the refrigerator, so if something happens, these are the numbers that you need to call right away.
Right.
And remember, if you're diabetic, if you're hypertensive, you want to be paying close attention, particularly if your glucose level,
Right.
you want to be paying close attention. So ensure that you have your glucometer, make sure that you have enough strips, make sure that your batteries are working in those devices, that your batteries are working. So test them, make sure that you have them, you have them at your disposal.
Right, and the other thing too is 2 points that you made was to store your water and also to have an extra month's supply of medication. I think that's very important,
Yes.
especially for me with my grandmother.
Yes.
If you have an elderly or you're caring for an elderly person, you ensure that you have an extra month or an extra month and a half's worth of medication, because you just never know.
Yes.
Right.
And for the clients who are on dialysis, we always recommend that they have a backup plan to be closely located to the hospital, the Princess Margaret Hospital. So those of you who are on dialysis and you live in maybe La Plaine or Tukari or wherever, you need to come up with a plan as to, if a hurricane is approaching, I may need to get this relative closer to Roseau. So I may need to find a family or a friend that's in the Roseau area. Or I know sometimes the hospital asks for these people to be hospitalized before the disaster strikes, because you cannot live without dialysis. You have to be dialyzed 3 times a week.
Right.
And so, people like that who are very, very, you can die within a week, you definitely need to come up with a plan as well.
That's
Okay?
right. Well, thank you for tuning in, and thank you for those of you who called. Your contributions were definitely appreciated. Listen, we're in the hurricane season. It started, so let's not take our lives and anybody else's for granted. And if you can help your neighbor, do so. Carlton?
My friends and everyone, have a good day. Go out and do something productive. Until next time, take care.
Take
Bye-bye.
care.
You're listening to Health Vibes. You were listening to Health Vibes, a production of Jolly's Pharmacy Limited.
Easy Rock 95.1. More rock, less talk while you work. The latest soft rock, hit after hit. Tune into Easy Rock 95.1, the best mid-morning show in the right here on Q95, the big station.